So here we are, the first review of this new series, if you like, which is for Virulence. Now, Virulence is the sequel to last year's Bioluminescence. That first book told of mankind's struggles following a global pandemic, imagine that, where a fungal spore-based infection spreads across the world, wipes out the majority of the population. We then met the survivors and learn about their communities, which are called havens, and the military kind of presence that protects them, as well as some outsiders who want people for, let's just say, experimentation. I'll perhaps do a revisit video for Bioluminescence further down the line, but you do need to have read that one to read this one. So Virulence is set around 2 months after the explosive finale of Bioluminescence, and I use the word explosive in the literal sense. Literally explosive ending. Choices were made and characters were scattered. So Georgie, Adam and Oliver are no longer in the same place. Adam is in one place, Oliver is in another, and Georgie is still with the majority of the survivors from their haven, and Jax as well is there, essentially being the military protector. They are all kind of grappling with the fallout of the choices that they made at the end of the first book. There is a part of Adam which is becoming more maniacal. He's becoming more ruthless, more detached from his humanity. His dependency is also much, much worse, and he's using it to control his feelings. He's very much become more of a shoot first, ask questions later kind of person, and then has to deal with the emotional consequences of that when he sort of comes round from what he's done. Oliver is disappearing into himself. He's missing Adam. He's blaming himself for them being apart. He doesn't know where he is. He's assuming he's with Georgie when in reality he is not. He is with the villain of the story, Desmond. And Georgie and Jax are kind of, they're not connecting well at this point. Some of Georgie's choices and the revelations from the first book have fractured their relationship as well. The trust that they all have for each other is almost non-existent at this point, and they are, Georgie and Jax and their band of survivors are essentially on the run throughout the story. They have something that Desmond wants, and they need to stop him from getting it. So what we have here is very much action-packed, but it is also incredibly dark. In comparison to Bioluminescence, this story is much darker, much more intense, I would say, and also more violent. I noticed there was a lot more language in it, a lot more bloodshed, a lot more... The themes were darker, and the whole story had a much more gritty vibe than the first one. Desmond, I think, is a perfect villain. He's very much Thanos style and what I mean by that is that while he's doing all of these things, these unquestionably horrible things, cold, calculated, methodical, when you reflect on what he's doing, at certain points you find yourself saying, well, hang on a minute, is he right? Because you can find yourself justifying his actions, and that makes him very morally grey when it comes to a villain. And probably in your own psyche, if you're thinking, wait a minute, I think Desmond's right there. And Georgie has that exact same dilemma further on in the story when she has to analyze whether her parents were actually the good guys or were they part of the problem. The representation in this book is pretty perfectly done, I have to say. The queer rep in particular is on point. It's not what I would call token in any way. It is an integral part of the story. The relationships are an integral part of the story. How they're broken, how they come back together. It's very important. It's very well executed, and it's a story where the fact that there are LGBTQIA plus characters in this story isn't the story. You know, it's integral to it. It's an element of the story, but it's not the whole point of the story, which is what too many authors fall into the trap of these days when they're trying to get their book to be inclusive, but they don't really know how to do it. This is a perfect example of how it should be done. I love the first book. Bioluminescence was in my top reads of 2024. It was fantastic. But Toni, me and you have got to have words on that ending. I mean, I thought the ending of Bioluminescence was explosive. The ending of Virulence is the definition of a cliffhanger. And I know for a fact you haven't started writing the third and final book yet. And I know it's not your next book. And that infuriates me as a desperate fan of, I need to finish this series. I need to know what happens. And if I have to wait till 2026, I'm going to be so internally furious about that. It's such a good series. It's such a good story. If you haven't read any of these, please do. Virulence comes out very soon. Bioluminescence is out now in KU, so you can go read it. I gave Bioluminescence 5 stars. I'm giving this one 4.5. Fantastic reads. You will love the story. You'll be fully immersed. I promise you. It's just fantastic. So if you would like your book to feature in one of these reviews, then please go to the link in my bio, fill in the form, and hopefully we will take a look at that for you. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.